a very special episode of the Woolly Thistle Shopcast. We are so excited. Christmas is behind us and we've got the new year. We're moving, and so we have a very special episode for you this time, don't we, Maggie?
Yeah.
You want to talk about it?
Yeah, so we decided that since December was an extra long and cozy month, that we would put together a special episode for you to enjoy over the New Year's weekend.
Yes.
And beyond. So we've asked each of our contributors to send us a short video, just sharing highlights from last year, things they're looking forward to in the next year. So we could just put together a holiday special. So we have segments from all of our contributors. So we have segments from Rachel on Fair Isle, Knitting Yoga with Kim. We have Kelsey, we have Caitlin, we have Emma, we have a segment from you, a segment from me, and also Graidi is joining us.
So we're just going to have these run one after the other, and we hope that you enjoy hearing from everyone talking about, you know, their favorite knits or, you know, their year and what they're looking forward to. We basically kept it fairly loosey-goosey, so we hope you enjoy that and knit along with us. So to get us started, we have Caitlin up first.
Yeah.
And from Caitlin, we'll go and we will just pass the baton right the way through, and at the very end, you'll see us again just to tie everything up at the end. So enjoy.
Hello everyone, I'm Caitlin and happy to be joining you one more time for the year 2022. I have lots of things to show you, a few highlights from this year, some plans for next year. So starting off 2022, I started the year in the hospital. My second son was born a couple hours into the new year. And so I actually spent the first few months away from the Woolly Thistle and not doing a whole lot of knitting. But yeah, super grateful to have started the year off in such an exciting way. And one kind of sweet thing to come out of that time, my first knit I want to show you for the year is the pair of pants that Corinne knit for my little one. Kind of a fun highlight of the year that my boss made my baby some pants. These are the Mossy baby pants. Just so you know, in this video, we'll mention lots of different projects, and we have show notes where you can find details from most, if not all, of these projects. In YouTube, you can click the show more or little down arrow to see the show notes with links to projects on Ravelry or the yarns in our shop or the patterns. And then we also do post a blog post on our website for each episode, so you can find it there as well. So anyway, if I don't have all the details for every project, you'll be able to find them in the notes. And that goes for everybody who will be on here today. So Mossy baby pants, this is in Retrosaria Brusca, and they still fit my son, which is a lot of fun. So getting some really great use out of these. Then next, I came back to work in March just as our Colorwork knit along was starting, and I did my first sort of all over Colorwork fingering weight cowl in Jamieson Smith 2-ply jumper weight. I'd really been wanting to work with that yarn, and I kind of made up my own cowl pattern here. It is lined with mohair held with a fingering weight, and it's a pattern from the Selbu Patterns book, and that turned out really fun. Learned a lot from that project. After that, we rolled out the HAP exploration, where many of you joined us for wonderful interviews between Corinne and Shetland designers and historians, and along with that, a lot of us knitted a hat, and I didn't finish mine during the knit along, but did end up showing it not too long ago that I finished. This is the half Hansel hat by Gudrun Johnston, knit in Shetland Supreme from Jamieson Smith, and the colors are 2-ply jumper weight. Also learned a lot with this project. I don't do a ton of lace, but this one was pretty methodical, easy to kind of get into the pattern of, except for the edging, which took me forever. But I did end up finishing it, and I love to have this just on the back of my chair while I work. Later on in the year, we did the sweater knit along, and I am wearing the kind of product that came out from that knit along together. This is the Manu sweater by Isabel Kramer, knit in Retrosaria Brusca for the main color, and Making Tracks from Junction Fiber Mill. This was a new yarn we brought in this year, and is kind of a color change, hand spun mimicking DK weight. It was my first time working with that and with the Brusca, and I loved both, and I love how this sweater came out. It's got color work at the bottom as well. I'd say that was one of the highlights, was this sweater project. It was so fun, it was speedy, and it was just so fun to see everybody else's sweater patterns too, their projects coming along. Finally, I'm working on a couple more projects for the end of the year. I'm recording in mid-December, so hopefully by the time you see this, I will have finished these and my sons will have worn them on Christmas and gotten, you know, a cute picture and everything. I'm working on 2 baby sweaters. I've shown this one on the Shopcast recently. This is for the baby. It's a Strange Brew Tin Can Knits kind of sweater recipe and stitch motifs from Mary Jane Mucklestone's Fair Isle Motifs book. And the green here is our Woolly Thistle sock yarn Rambler, which was a big debut this year too. The Woolly Thistle created its first yarn along with Battenkill Fiber Mill as the mill. So that was exciting, and I've been really enjoying working with it. And the light blue in here is also Rambler. That's Winter Sky, the dark green is Pine, and then this is leftover from my HAP, some Shetland Supreme, and some other random stash yarns for the brown and red in there. So I still have lots of work to do to finish this one up. Lots of ends to weave in, but once that's done, then my almost 1-year-old can wear this. And while I'm avoiding weaving in the ends, I started my other son's sweater. So again, this is Rambler, blue and green, and then some Brooklyn Tweed Shelter from Stash for the main body. I'm about to do a little bit more green color work at the bottom and then switch back to the blue for the cuffs and hem at the bottom. So we'll do the sleeves, and this will be his sweater. So I think they'll look pretty cute together. So that is my last project for the year, probably. In the new year, I'm looking forward to getting back to my pressed flowers cardigan. That one I haven't made any progress on since I showed it last time, but this is an Amy Christoffers pattern in Ullcentrum Sport for the gray and my Handspun for the color work. I'll pick this back up, and then I have some other plans for the new year, of course. I have a pile of books here that I wanted to show you a couple things in. Some of my goals for the new year are to knit from some of the books that I already have, while also leaving plenty of space to knit kind of whatever exciting things come up during the year. There's some really awesome yarns at the Woolly Thistle that we carry that I haven't even worked with yet. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting into some of those. And then also, yeah, just leaving space for fabulous new yarns, exciting new patterns that kind of just hop to mind during the year. But I do have a couple lined up to start with. First is from the Knitted Kalavala book. This is Jenna Kostet is the designer, and this came out not too long ago. And I think my first sweater in this book might be this beautiful one here. This is Pohjolan. I forget the exact name. Like I said, the name will be in the description box, show notes. But definitely knitting something from this book. I'm excited to do that. Plus, I have some yarn on the way. We've just gotten in Álafosslopi, one of the yarns from Istex from Iceland. It's a bulky weight, and this sweater is in the contrast book by Meiju KP. And I am thinking that bulky weight Álafosslopi might work well in this Maja cardigan here. It's twisted stitches, which is also something I'd like to try this year. Theirs is, I think, a worsted weight held with a silk mohair maybe. I'm going to try the Álafosslopi. I just have a skein coming so I can swatch, and we'll see how that works out. This might be my first project of the new year after the pressed flowers is done. So another kind of working from a book I already have goal. I've also got the Scandinavian sweaters book, which just is filled with beautiful designs, and I'd love to make something from this. I'm thinking this Setesdal sweater would be fun. Everything in this book is just so tempting. It's hard to pick a favorite. So those are some goals for the new year. Also including more of my handspun in my knitting is a goal. I have a big stash of yarns that I've made over the years and not done anything with yet. So hopefully not treating it too preciously, but actually winding it up and knitting with it, getting it on my needles is another goal. And yeah, I think that kind of winds up our year 2022 to bring us into the new year. We'll see you there.
Hi, it's Kelsey here, just jumping in for a quick year-end recap of my knitting and my future projects. So happy holidays to everyone who's celebrating some year-end holidays. Happy New Year to everybody. I just want to talk about sort of three categories of things. Trends I've seen in my knitting for this year, skills that I've been working on, and things that I am planning to be knitting in the next year. So in the first category, I think, well, first of all, I will say I'm the first person to admit that I'm a process knitter, not a product knitter, which I'm focusing more on how I'm knitting and what I'm knitting and learning new skills in my knitting instead of necessarily the products that I'm getting at the end, the hat, the cowl, the scarf, the whatever. But this year I ended up knitting a lot of socks, and I think that is because there is a lot of process in socks. There's a lot of different things to learn. There's a lot of different skills. There's a lot of different heels and toes and fit options and color work and patterning and all sorts of things. So I was doing a lot more of that this year. They're also very portable. So my 2022 has been a little bit crazy for myself and my family. So having that little project on the go that's not a big, a big sweater bag, this bag, it's a little sock bag that big, has been helpful to have with me. So I was doing a lot of that. I actually didn't knit a sweater for myself, which I was actually surprised about that I didn't finish one this year. I finished a few for my kids, but sweaters for me are this big, sweaters for them are that big. So it's a little bit of a different project when you're doing knitting like that. Other than that, I think I worked a lot on some color work things. I did some shawl shaping and short row projects, been learning some different skills that way, but I haven't been doing a lot of cabling, and I guess I've been thinking about that, and I don't know why that is. I've had some bad experiences with cabling in the past where I just didn't have a good time because it was just too many cables, too much focusing, and as I said, things have been a little bit crazy. So it's a little harder to focus on some of those patterns. But my intention for the next year is to take on some of those things. I'm going to start with a hat as a Christmas gift, a last minute Christmas gift, and work my way up from there. I do like cabling. I just haven't put in the time or the commitment to be finishing a project like that in the recent past. I don't know what else to say about last year. I guess I did knit a lot of gifts. I knit a lot of things for friends and family, and not a ton for myself, except for those socks that I mentioned. I've been trying to work a bit from pattern books instead of individual patterns on Ravelry. A lot of books are really great value if you like a few patterns that are in them. So you might spend $20, $30, $40, even $50 for a pattern book, but they could have, at least 10, maybe 12, maybe 20, or if one of the 52 weeks books has 52. So you can get a lot of patterns in pattern books. So I've actually been doing a lot of knitting from pattern books that I already own and getting a lot of enjoyment from doing that and finding yarns that I have that work for them. In the next year, I think I'll be knitting a bit more for myself. Hopefully we'll actually knit and finish a sweater. I've been wearing my sweaters and been wearing my socks, but not in a reliable in a reliable way. And I actually realized I hadn't been knitting it, and it's kind of surprising. One thing I wanted to mention about that is I have bought sweater quantities of yarn before and then had them be either one skein too short or like 2 skeins too long for a given pattern. And then I'm tall, so I end up not knitting the pattern when I don't have enough. But then if I have too much, I also don't want to end up with sort of those orphan skeins at the end. So I'll end up not knitting the sweater. So that's just me and my hang-ups about yarn and yarn stashing, and we'll see. I think I'm going to try to be a little more intentional about selecting patterns and even just knitting patterns that I want to knit instead of focusing so much on what the yardage is and what I might have left over and using up scraps. But I love using up scraps, so that's not going to happen. I'm going to always be using up the scraps. But yeah, that's all I've got to say for a year-end wrap-up. A little bit scattered, a little bit crazy, but I think I'm on a bit of a sock roll, but I'm planning to knit a sweater, and I'm excited. So happy holidays and happy new year to everybody. Bye.
Hello and welcome. I hope you had a wonderful and happy holiday. Thank you for joining me here for a few minutes. I'm happy to be part of this special episode and part of this community. Let's see. Thinking about 2022, my making felt much different from previous years. I actually finished 4 sweaters this year, which is definitely a record for me. Previously, I had always been, I'd knit a lot of shawls and stuff. So knit 4 sweaters in 2022 and they all fit. Isn't that lovely? I brought just a couple. One of the highlights for me was this sweater, which is a love note. And I knit it using Handspun. So that was definitely one of my 2022 highlights. I also knit 2 of the sweaters this year. I knit had mohair, which is unusual for me, but I love them. They're wonderful. I have my vanilla fluff, which is so cozy, and I wear it a lot. I'm currently wearing my tree light, which it's like 11 degrees this morning when I'm recording. Thankfully not in my house, but it's very cold outside, and I'm quite comfortable in the Lopi once it gets really cool outside. So, and then my second love note, I don't usually knit the same thing more than once, unless it's a sock, but I really like the love note pattern. It's easy to wear. Emma has also knit, Emma who contributes has knit a bunch of them, and I can totally see why. So these were, then my 4th sweater, which was in a recent episode, was the Radari by that is Jan's daughter, and that's also a Let Lopi sweater. I'm thinking for next year, I'll definitely be knitting another Lopi sweater. I'm tempted to knit another tree light because I absolutely love the fit of this sweater. It just fits absolutely perfectly. It's very cozy, easy to wear, and looks really nice. The shaping on it is really good. You can see in the back, well, maybe you can't see, but the shaping on it is really comfortable and cozy. And yeah, I think that that's one of my plans next year, is to pick another Lopi sweater, but possibly just pick different colors for another tree light. Also looking back, you'll see this big pile here. This is all of the Handspun. I believe it's everything I spun in 2022. There was one other skein that is already in my That Follow Your Path hat that I recently knit, the Stephen West pattern. That was a spin this year, and I still have some of that left too, but I'm hoping, at a distance, these probably all look exactly the same, but some of them are actually a little bit different. So I'm not sure if I have enough for a main color of a sweater, but I'm looking forward to digging into some of those and knitting them next year. I think there's definitely a sweater in there, hopefully. So the other thing I wanted to show you today is something that I did over Christmas. My sister and I have a tradition of doing handmade Christmas items. We started this tradition years ago with my mother, and it continues to this day. So usually something handmade. There have been some years where it's just a complete handmade gift between her and I. And then other years where it's sort of a mix, where maybe there's something handmade and something purchased. But this year will be a mix. But I did manage to, I started late, but managed to make something for her. They're sort of still in progress, but I feel confident they'll be done in time for Christmas. I'm recording a little early, but my sister and I are both really proud of the fact that we come from a line of knitters. So my mom was an avid knitter and crocheter and rug hooking. She would just try it all. She loved making things. And my grandmother, my mother's mother, was also a knitter, as are some of my aunts. But my grandmother passed away a couple years ago, and my sister and I were given the tiny bit of yarn stash that she had left, and it was mostly acrylics, and she was in her 90s when she passed, and thankfully still knitting up until, you know, maybe the last year or so. But so she hardly had any left, and it wasn't anything fancy. It was some nice Bergère de France acrylics. And so I wanted to do something for my sister this year using the yarns that I've left. You can see I still have quite a bit left, but I'm not quite done with the project. So I'm hoping to use much of it up. So what I decided to do was actually make some granny squares and make pillow covers. So they're very bright, but I did all the rounds, and then I found this, I really need to weave in ends, but I found this purple for the outside that is an acrylic, I think it's an acrylic cotton blend, but it works really nicely with all the other colors, and it ties it all in together. So I thought I was only gonna have enough to do one, but I vastly underestimated how much yarn I have, and I'm almost done with this front of the second one. So the fronts are going to be the granny squares, and the backs I'm just gonna stripe, and then I'll put a row of buttons on it so that she can take them on and off, or if the pillow over time gets squished or just, you know, anything happens to it, she could take it off, she can wash it. So that's my plan for her, is 2 of these. As you can see, they're not completely done yet, but I will make sure to get a photo or a video of it. I think it's a nice way to create a little heirloom for her. I don't know if she'll keep this on the sofa where she sits or in her crafting space, but I think she'll really appreciate having a little bit of my grandmother with her when she's, you know, at home and making. So I thought that was, I was really pleased with this. I used a free pattern on Ravelry for these. It's sort of a circular looking granny square, but I really like them. The pattern I used had you actually stop at the white row and then join them together, and I liked it in the main project, but I wanted something a little bit bigger, and I liked how the darker color sort of anchored everything. It was more the look I was going for. So that's that. I'm really pleased with these. I think that they've worked up really fast. I'm expecting to be able to finish this in the next day or so. And then I can move on to, I'm hoping to do some sport weight socks for possibly for my husband. So let's see how that goes. I'm getting short on time, but he won't care if they're a day or two late. So yeah, I hope that your Christmas has been wonderful and peaceful. That's about all I have to show you. I'm gonna, my plan for the end of the year, for end of 2022, is to really kind of clear the needles. I still have my my shawl going, my Stephen West MCal, my twist and turn shawl. I've probably not made it much further than the last time because I've been working on this gift, but I really do love these cables. So I'm still on the cable-y bit there, still at the end of clue 2, but I'm hoping really once I finish these gifts, the plan is to hop back in and finish this shawl. I do really like the finish shawl. I know it's a bit wild, but absolutely love it. I do like how Rambler pops for these cables. So yeah, that's my plan for the end of 2022 is to really clear the needles, go through some old project bags. I don't have that many. I have a couple blanket projects that are started that I think it's time that they either need to get some attention or I don't really want to rip them out, so I think they need to get some attention. So those are my plans. And I'm looking forward to a new year of crafting. I've not really set many goals or intentions for next year as far as my making. I would like to do more color work. This year I've not really done a lot of color work and I miss it. I'm working slowly on my tapestry cowl, but that's one of the things I'd like to clear the needles on and get that done. Yeah, so more color work, more sweaters. That's my goal for next year. I hope you'll join us and come along for the ride. And I look forward to seeing all of your projects on Ravelry and Facebook. And I hope you have a happy new year.
Hi, Woolly Thistlers, and happy holidays. Welcome to the Turning Ground portion of your holiday special. My name is Kim, and I am a yoga teacher and a knitter based in central Alberta here in Canada. So when Corinne and Maggie asked me to offer something for your Christmas special, the Christmas special, I had to really think about it. I mean, what do I talk about? What do I do? I thought maybe a yoga practice, I played around with the 12 days of Christmas, yoga poses, something like that. But in the end, I sat and meditated, and this is what came: gratitude and intention. So I'm wearing my jeans again today, which means we won't be doing any yoga. I just wanted to talk a little bit about something that could serve you now as well as in the new year, something that you can make into a daily practice of either thoughtfulness, mindfulness, or even meditation. So the first part of this exercise is gratitude. I want you to find any comfortable seat, anywhere where you won't be disturbed for the next few minutes, and close your eyes. And think back to the things over the last year that you're grateful for. This may be something like family, a trip that you finally got to take, good health. Maybe it's finally mastering creme brulee or figuring out that difficult stitch pattern. Maybe it's finishing the sweater when you did the sweater cowl, or doing your first piece of color work during that color work make-along in February. Maybe it's gratitude for having clean water to drink, for the sun shining, for the trees growing, for the air that we breathe. Just take a moment, eyes closed, and make that list. So we're grateful for things in the present, and we're grateful for things over the past year. But what about what's coming in the future? This is where the second part of this exercise comes in, intention. So I think a more colloquial way of saying that might be goal setting, but we're going to spiritualize it a little bit. We're going to bring it into our hearts and use the word intention. So it's not just something we do with our brain, it's something that we do with our whole being, energetically too. And intention originally should be something that you write down. So the second part of this exercise requires you to use a pen and paper. You can pause right now while you grab one. Right, so we're ready to set our intention for the new year. I want you to close your eyes once more and let your mind wander as it's tethered to the thought of what do you want to manifest in your life in this next year. Maybe it is a weight loss goal for better health. Maybe it is to knit a pair of socks every month for a year. That was mine last year. Maybe it is to be more mindful, to have a mindfulness practice. I mean, it could be so many things. I'll just give you a minute to think about and write down what your intentions are for this coming year. I think mine will be to slow down a little bit. Rather than set time-dependent goals, I'm just going to be more mindful about enjoying the process, specifically about knitting. So you start by writing your intentions down, and then every day, after you list the things you're grateful for, and that changes all the time depending on your mood, then you bring out your physical list, your actual list of things, your intentions for the year, and you go through those. And you see yourself with those intentions already fulfilled. It's a beautiful practice. It only takes a few minutes every day. You can couple that with breathing exercises, with a yoga practice, with meditation. But if you do this every day, you'll find that you're more peaceful in your heart because of the gratitude you've expressed. And you'll find that the things that you want to come into your life in this new and coming year manifest quickly and powerfully. So that is my Christmas offering to you. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're interested in taking any yoga classes, check out my website. I'll have the link here. And happy holidays to all of you out there. Bye.
I'm Graidi. I'm the customer success rep here at the Woolly Thistle. And since it just started snowing today when I'm recording, I thought it would be fun to come out here and record outside so you can enjoy the snow if you're somewhere that doesn't have snow, or you might very well, as you can see behind me, we don't really have any on the ground at the moment, mid-December, but hopefully we will have some in time for Christmas. So I just wanted to share a few projects that I've been working on this year, some of my favorite knits from this past year to kind of recap as we get ready to head into the new year. So I'm wearing the Felix pullover by the patterns by Amy Christoffers, and it's knit in Álafosslopi. And this was actually the first sweater that I finished, and I finished it last spring just in time for the warm weather. So now that winter's back, I'm able to finally start wearing it, and it has been lovely to keep me warm this winter. You can see the really pretty detailing on the raglan increases there on the sleeves, the eyelet details. I'm also wearing this cowl that I just finished test knitting for Casey Herlihy, who is Casey Knits on Instagram. It's called the Copper Fox's Super Bulky Cowl. Copper Fox's Super Bulky Cowl, and it is knit in a yarn that we don't carry at the shop. Malabrigo Rasta is what she designed it in, but I also plan to knit a Álafosslopi version. As you can probably tell, I enjoy working with Álafosslopi. This is Álafosslopi. My hat is also knit in Álafosslopi, a light gray and a dark gray. This is the Latvian braid hat, and I will have to check on the designer's name, but I will link that below for you if you're interested. It was a really fun knit. This was my first time doing the Latvian braid, and then the kind of color work there as well. Pretty straightforward, but a fun knit and nice and cozy warm for this winter. I also wanted to share with you, if you'd seen me on the Shopcast previously, I made my debut talking about swatching, which is something that I am fairly new to. I have never been a fan of swatching in the past, but when I started doing projects where gauge was very important, that's when I started doing some swatching. So I just thought I would share quickly. I have quite the collection of swatches here. I jokingly said I could probably sew them together and make a cardigan at this point. But these are some swatches that I've knit. As you can see, this one is I did in the round that has all the little tails. And then some are just the rectangular swatches. This is Álafosslopi. This was also my swatch for the hat cowl, the Hansel hat I knit. So it was kind of a mini hat. I wanted to make sure I would be able to do the border without issue. So that's that one there. A couple others I wanted to share. This is my version of the vanilla sweater. As you can tell, I like green. This is knit in the, oops, getting attacked by a branch here. This is knit in the Dehesa de Barrera fingering weight, which is 100% Spanish merino. It actually is kind of an elbow length sleeve right now, but I think I might lengthen the sleeves for the winter. I wore this to Rhinebeck and it was perfect for that because it was a little warm, which was wonderful. So that worked out in my favor with my elbow sleeve sweater. And the other kind of new adventure for me this year was test knitting. I'd not done a lot of test knitting in the past, but I have since done several test knit projects. My very first test knit was actually this one here, which is the Sutton Shawlette. This is the smaller version, so kind of just a bandana size shawlette. There's also a slightly larger one that you could easily wrap kind of around and pull the corners down like a triangular shawl. This was really fun. This is actually a combination of crochet in the center, and then you pick up stitches and knit the edge like a shawl. This is in WIS Signature 4-ply in the Black Currant Bomb colorway. So this was a really fun knit, very lightweight but very warm. I also have knit this for the same designer, Tori Yu. This is the Burrow hood, which is, as you can see, a hood. This was a really fun test knit because this was several firsts for me. So this is actually a I-cord cast on here, and then you are knitting in short rows to create this basically turning of a heel, as Maggie had mentioned once, and then it's an I-cord bind off. So this is a really nice winter accessory because you can wear it down like a cowl, or you can put it up to keep your head warm if you're out and about and you want something lighter that you can kind of put on and take off. This is knit in Retrosaria Vovo. This was my first project with a Vovo, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very light but a very bouncy, squishy fabric. So really fun knit. Again, those are both patterns from Tori Yu, who is on Ravelry and Instagram. And then the other test knit that I did, I've completed so far, is this here, which is the Notorious Kids hoodie. This was actually for my son, And this one is kind of like a hooded sweatshirt, essentially. This is knit in Rama Finalgarn, held double with the WIS Signature 4-ply variegated or multicolored colorway owl, which still creates this kind of subtle striping, which is really fun. He's enjoyed it. And the hood, of course, to keep your head warm. So this was a really fun knit. This was one of the, I think the second or third sweater that I had completed. The designer, I don't remember her name, I'll have to link it below for you. She also has an adult version, and she just recently released a hooded Notorious hood, which is just the hood portion of it. So it's a really fun knit. I'm very tempted to make one for myself in adult sizes as well. And finally, the last thing that I kind of ventured into this year was starting to design some of my own patterns. And I just started that, or started writing them down anyways. And so a few that I finished, this one here is a little hat that has some twisted stitches, and you might have heard me talk on a Facebook Live about I got the Twisted Stitch source book from Noragon, and that has been really fun and inspiring with all those neat designs that you can do. So this is just a really simple hat. This is kind of my son's size, or even a little kid size, that has that twisted stitch motif throughout. You can see the top there. This is knit in Rama Vams, so nice and cozy, warm. It's a really quick knit because it's an hour and weight yarn. And the most recent I just finished yesterday. This is a little cowl that I knit for my son. This is in another yarn we don't have in the shop. but I think I might be knitting. This is in kind of a bulky Aran weight yarn, so I was thinking I might do up a larger version for myself in Álafosslopi possibly. I have not worked with that yet, or Let Lopi. Even Vams or Studio Nonigal would be a really nice one for this. And this is a, I don't remember the name of the ribbing, but this is one that was in a stitch book that I got at our local library. And it's just been a really fun, pretty straightforward. It's just a 4-row repeat. And so this was fun, and I'm hoping to knit up some more for gifts this winter as well. This Christmas, really. So that is everything I wanted to share with you. And thank you for being with us this year. I hope you and your family have a wonderful holiday season, and we will see you again in the new year. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm here to talk about a little bit of a look back on 2022 and a little bit of a look forward to 2023. So in 2022, I felt like it was a really good year for knitting. I have a lot to be proud of. I designed a lot of socks, finished my one big Fair Isle piece for the year. I usually do one big Fair Isle piece a year. You know, I learned how to spin, which was crazy. I'm so excited about that. And I have a lot to be really excited about going forward. So, you know, as a knitter, I can't really stop. I feel like I need to always keep moving forward. I need to have like a growth mindset about knitting. And I have come to the conclusion that, you know, as a knitter in my knitting life, I really need to have a mix of what in my line of work, I guess I would call focused thinking and diffuse thinking. So focused knitting and kind of like chill knitting, let's call it that. So, you know, we need kind of a mix of things in our lives, in ways that we use our brains. So focused thinking, or whatever you're doing knitting, would mean that your brain is really engaged, you're thinking really hard about something, you're focusing really hard on it. You can't really let your attention waver too much because, you know, you would mess up. And then the kind of like diffuse thinking or knitting is kind of when we just go on autopilot. We let our brain go. Maybe we're watching TV, maybe we're chatting, being social, whatever it is. We don't really have to think a whole lot, and we can just kind of go. So the more we knit, the better we get at being able to kind of do the easier type of knitting, even though we might be knitting more and more complicated things. We're so used to it, our hands are used to it, our minds are used to it, that, you know, we kind of go farther and farther into this realm of easy knitting. And I always find that I need ways to challenge my brain. So in 2022, I did that with designing socks, and I have designed 13 pairs of socks that are all going to get released in 2023. Well, one's already released, so if you are watching this, you know that hopefully that you can get my Emma Woodhouse sock pattern exclusively from the Woolly Thistle, released with the Woolly Thistle's Rambler sock yarn. But there will be 12 other patterns, also all named after Jane Austen characters, coming to you in 2023. I'll give you a sneak peek of one of them. So, you know, I think in 2023, I'm trying to challenge myself to be a little bit more intentional about challenging myself. So, of course, you know, it's really important to have knitting that we find joyful. And that sometimes is really intense knitting, and that sometimes is like really vanilla or plain knitting, or something that we're just so comfortable with that it's just like a warm blanket. It's like comfort knitting. So I think, you know, at the end of every day, when I sit down to knit, I have to take stock of my brain and how much of a challenge I feel like I can take on. And so sometimes I'm really strung out from work, and I just have been talking to students all day about lots of things, and I just need to kind of like watch a show and dissociate. So I always have what I call vanilla knitting. This is a very plain scarf that I'm working on for my grandfather, and something like this. You know, it's really important to have this, or, you know, I usually have a vanilla sweater on the needles, or some self-striping socks that I'm working on that's just really, really plain. This is just a simple little texture pattern of knits and purls, very easy to remember. The row is the same on both sides. So something like this. I like to have something like this on my needles, just always accessible. Or if I'm being social, you know, it's nice to have something like this. So vanilla knitting, very important. My sock knitting has also become kind of meditative for me. This is one of my socks for 2023. Knit it, the woolly, or the Rosa Pomar Mondim sock yarn, which is available from the Woolly Thistle. And there's some super fun variegated colorways, not really striping, but kind of self-patterning almost. And this is a nice little texture pattern. These are my socks to be released next June. They're named Anne Elliott from Persuasion. And yeah, I think that this is a really great way to use the Mondeem that I received in my Woolly Thistle sock bag this year. So can't wait to be knitting through more woolly sock yarns. So something like that. You know, I'm gonna continue knitting socks in 2023 because I have a lot more samples to knit, even though the designs are all done, the samples are not yet done. So I'm really looking forward to, again, knitting with really woolly sock yarns in 2023 because I've knitted with a lot of commercial ones or ones that I dyed myself, which are more, you know, superwash type of socks, and those are really wonderful, but I'm also really enjoying the woolly socks. So something like that. I think it's also important to have vanilla knitting or any kind of knitting that's really comforting. So for instance, my Christmas to New Year's sweater is just going to be a pretty plain sweater. I might have some lace work on the raglans or something that I might do, but it's going to be pretty vanilla and it's going to be hopefully pretty relaxing. So I'm going to have a relaxing knit coming up, of course, just to kind of, especially between Christmas and New Year's, you know, you don't want to do too much. You just kind of want to sit around and veg and knit. So I'm really looking forward to that. But then there are times when, you know, my brain needs a challenge. And I'm thinking this year is probably the year to kind of sit down and do a big cabled project where I work a little bit on it every day and kind of see the growth. And I think it's really important to do things like that in our lives where we commit to a larger goal and understand how much work has to go into it to get there. And then, you know, feel the kind of like real pride that comes with working really hard to reach a goal, not just being good at something, which is what I tell my students every day at work. You know, it's not about getting it right the first time. It's about figuring out how we can get there and being really proud of how hard we worked. So, you know, I always have something like color work. This is something I'm going to be working on in 2023 as well. The Maddie cardigan by Kristin Drysdale and Bichet Bouche Le Petit Lamb's Wool. This is something I started a few months ago with the intention of continuing it, and I just kind of got caught up in gift knitting and socks and all sorts of things. So this is going to get done in 2023. Another one of my intentions is to stop carrying whips for so long. You know, if I like something and I cast it on, keep going. If I don't like it, let's just rip it back, and maybe that's yarn is destined to become something else. So I'm excited about this. This is gonna be my next big colorwork project. I kind of thought, I was like, oh, I need another Fair Isle whip because I just finished a big Shetland cowl. And then I thought, no, I've got one. Maybe it's not with Shetland wool with 1,000 colors, but until the Fair Isle yoke of this is done, or the colorwork yoke of this is done, this is my colorwork project. This is gonna get done and I really wanna wear it. And I love it and it's really fun. And I think the long floats and the flowers are a really interesting challenge. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Irregular color work is kind of interesting. Although this isn't that irregular, the flowers are symmetrical, but it's still a little bit of a challenge. And you know, to keep going with Shetland knitting, I've got, this is my next hat base picked out. I need to pick out some colors for it. But I think, you know, putting new colors together for Fair Isle projects is something that I've always really enjoyed, and I would like to kind of expand my comfort zone with colors in Shetland knitting a little bit in 2023. Use some colors that maybe wouldn't always go together, maybe break out of the monochrome zone a little bit more. You know, I have to say, this is pretty monochrome. There's just really one color and then it's just all brown. And red is kind of so close to brown that it obviously goes well. So I would like to be a little bit more funky with my Fair Isle palettes. But yeah, and I hope to spend a lot more time spinning, learning more about myself as a spinner, more about my wheel, more about all the things it can do, and learning lots more about sheep breeds. I'm really looking forward to kind of delving into that this year and being a little bit more intentional about which breeds I spin and what I learn about them. So I hope that you have some intentions and goals for 2023 too, or just to enjoy yourself. Like, that's a goal and an intention. Just kind of like knit what feels right. So I plan to knit what feels right, spin what feels right every day. That's my main intention for 2023, but it's also to, you know, to start projects that I feel like might be kind of a reach, but in the end, I'll really be proud of and enjoy wearing, and, you know, it'll feel like I've, you know, a big accomplishment. So yeah, I can't wait to see what 2023 brings, and I hope everyone has a great year ahead of knitting and life. And I'll see ya next year. Bye everyone.
Hi Woolly Thistlers, it's Rachel from Barkland Croft here in Fair Isle. I'm just here with a short video to say goodbye to 2022 and welcome in 2023. I'm recording this on the 10th of December, although it will go out later in the month. Ruffalo the cat has been busy helping pick out the Christmas decorations, so we're feeling really festive in the house now with our Christmas Carol CDs on as well. This last week the temperature has really dropped a few degrees and we had our first forecast of snow. It wasn't necessarily the heavy snow predicted and everywhere was so wet that it didn't really settle, but at least we've had our first snow of the season. Despite everywhere outside being wet and muddy, in the byre my pots of violet cress are still giving a splash of colour. Butterscotch was really excited to see Maggie's beautiful hat in the Shopcast and was soon buying and telling all her friends to come and look because her wool was famous. It got me thinking that I hadn't really managed to do many knitting projects myself this year. I did manage this headband, which was a test knit for Making Stories magazine, which I knit in my own Croft Juniper colourway. I also knitted these fingerless gloves in my own Croft butterscotch wool as a Christmas present for my mum. Hopefully it's okay to share now and that they'll have arrived at their destination already. For a lot of reasons, 2022 hasn't been a great year here. In the 7.5 years that I've lived here, it's definitely been the hardest year that I've had. I saw this post on social media the other day, which says, "Farming teaches you how to give your all and it still not be enough." And I thought that just about summed this year up. Not just in terms of crofting, losing blossom, but a lot of other things as well. You may know that my sister and brother-in-law live in Pittsburgh in America and my mum lives near Coffs Harbour in Australia. Well, in 2023 it will be 4 years since I've seen my family, so we're really hoping that they can fly over and we can meet somewhere in Scotland for a week or so together. I wanted to thank you so very, very much for all the kind comments you put on my last video when I shared the news about losing Sweet Blossom. Her lamb, Seraph, wanted to send you his own message, but he was being very cheeky and kept sticking his tongue out and then trying to eat my hat. So we settled for a cute photo of him instead, but he's very grateful to you all too. I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to all of you for your support, whether that's through buying items through my website, wool, knitwear, or commenting on the videos and sending your support through those. Thank you, it really does mean a lot to me. Thank you also to Corinne for giving me the opportunity to share these videos with you, and to Maggie for putting up with me when I miss a deadline for when my videos are meant to be submitted. Thank you all so very much, and I wish you a peaceful, happy and healthy 2023. Cheers.
Hello. I hope you've been enjoying everybody's contributions to this special year-end episode of the Woolly Thistle Shopcast. I think I'm the last to go. I'm here at home. I'm actually working from home today, and it's a beautiful morning with blue skies with lots of snow. So I've been wondering what to talk with you about, and then it became very clear to me what I needed to share with you, which is an insight into how the woolly thistle ticks. I think that would be fun for you to hear and good for me to share with you. What a crazy year, 2022. I hope you've had a good year, and I hope you're looking forward to a wonderful 2023. For me personally, 2022 has been difficult, I would say, but I've got great people around me who have helped me keep oning, and I feel really grateful that I have weathered 2022 as well as I have, if I may be so bold to say so. Let me tell you about the Woolly Thistle and our core values, because I thought, seeing I run the Woolly Thistle in such a way that it's a real team effort, I thought I would share with you what our guiding principles are, what our core values are, because they not only extend to people that work at the Woolly Thistle and the teams there, it actually is very appropriate for you as knitters, for me as a knitter. I think they speak to all of us. So not in any specific order, we are experimental, open-minded, courageous, caring, and tenacious. And those 5 core values are things that are very meaningful to me personally and to how we run the Woolly Thistle. My leadership team, which is Josh, our inventory and fulfillment manager, Maggie, who is our sales and marketing manager, she will soon be taking on a new position as a product development manager, which is a whole new department that we've decided as a team we need to have to continue with the growth we're having and to keep our customers excited about the sorts of things we stock at the Woolly Thistle. So Maggie will be going over to become our product development or product acquisition manager, all kinds of good things there. I'm so excited about this new job, honestly. And we are going to welcome Adam next year at the beginning of the year in just a couple of weeks. He is our new sales and marketing manager, and we are very excited to see how he fits into the team and operates in this team enterprise. So let me talk a little bit more about the core values, because they're important to me personally and they're important to the business as a whole. So we're experimental. Now look, if we're going to be experimental, we are going to make mistakes, we are going to fail, but we don't look at them as failures. At the Woolly Thistle, we use failure as data, information that we can really look at quite hard and figure out where we went wrong and fix it. We can change direction. We can come up with a way to make whatever it was better. So experimental is really key to the Woolly Thistle. I think as a knitter, it's also really key, whether you're just starting. My dog's here. She is boofing at phantoms. There she is. Hi, Bella. You got your Christmas sweater on. To my everlasting shame, I didn't knit her Christmas sweater, but she loves it. Anyway, I was saying about it being experimental. As a knitter, that could be doing your first steek. That is hugely experimental, right? You're taking a risk, you're cutting your knitting, and you don't know if it's going to hold or not. Or it could be that you are just a brand new knitter, brand new to this whole yarny space, and you want to learn how to knit and purl and make something. That is all experimental. For us here at the Woolly Thistle, it means we try new products and we see if you like them, or it means we roll out a product in a different way, or whatever. Life is an experiment and we embrace that here. Open-mindedness is another core value that's really important to me. In order to be open-minded, we need to be transparent, which is what I'm doing with you right now. Actually, we always need to think the best of people, so that we expect and we believe that we are getting the best of our teammates here at work, that we're all putting our best foot forward. And I think that's true with our knitters as well. We want to meet you where you are, whether that is inexperienced or very experienced knitter. Courageous, this is a big one. And actually this was my word for 2022, and it has been required, and it has been a good word to have with me. It's been a good reminder of what I needed to do this year. And I think the Woolly Thistle as a whole is courageous. We basically had a little idea, or I did back in 2016 at EYF, at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. The light bulb went off that, I need to come to Edinburgh to get this stuff, or I need to deal with customs to ship it over here. Why don't I do that and see if my friends would like some of what I bring in? And it was a great idea, because obviously many of you have since shopped with us. And I think that's because it's founded on a great idea. But it took courage to learn how to deal with customs on a big, large scale. As we continue to grow, it takes courage every day to let go of various things that I always did before. So courage is required in all different ways and can be applied in different ways. And I certainly feel that I've had to be courageous as the company has grown, as I give up those things that I controlled and handed them over to others who will look after them with the same care and love that I always did. And I have that. I sleep very well at night knowing that the business is in very good hands as these departments grow. So that's courage, you know, and it also takes courage as a knitter to cut that steek. I know, I did it that first time myself and was really, really worried and took very good care to make sure all my stitches were secured. And now I don't need to do that. I know which yarns to knit with, that I don't need to secure the stitches, and I can just cut, and we're, you know, that's one of the quickest parts of knitting a sweater, is steeking it. So, you know, with courage, you learn new things, you get to experiment, and you get to learn and grow from it. And that's what I hope, and that's what I see happen with our own knitters who shop here at the Woolly Thistle, that you are growing in your skills, and it's wonderful. Caring is one of the most important core values we have, because without it, what's the point? So we care about each other as a team, and we're now a rather much bigger team than we used to be. I think we are at 14 employees now, 5 of whom are full-time, I believe. And we have about 6 contractors who also help the Woolly Thistle do what it does every day. So it takes about 20 people to make this rocket ship fly. And we have to care about each other. So we give each other good feedback. We pull each other up when we need to. We make sure that it's never a case of that's not my job. That just doesn't fly in a small business anyway, but that I've never heard that. That's the way that has to be. So we care about each other as a team, and we care about our customers inordinately. I mean, I can't tell you. Without you, none of this happens, none of it. And so we care deeply about your thoughts. We love getting your feedback. We get so many emails with suggestions and ideas that really help guide us go in the direction that you want us to go in. And so we are always here to hear your thoughts. We really do want you to have a good knitting experience with the yarns that we stock and with the content we provide. We do it because we love sharing this information. It lights us up, and we know you care about us. You leave us such beautiful comments on YouTube every single episode. It's incredible. Thank you for that. And you know, you light us up. You make us make a difference. One of the things I am probably most proud of that the Woolly Thistle achieved was after COVID started, and we quickly realized that because we were going into lockdown and isolation, that many of our knitters would feel isolated and lonely, and that was not a good thing at all. And while we didn't know what was happening with the business, we decided that we would at least connect people. So we sent out a plea that if you were able to buddy up with someone who is lonely or isolated, or if you were in need of company, albeit virtual, then we would put you together. And we did that. And we still do it today. And we still hear from people who were connected that way, that their groups are still going. We made that happen because we saw, regardless of what was happening to the shop, that people needed to have a connection. And we had a lot of people in our customer base, so we knew that we could reach out to lots of knitters and get them the company that they needed. And I think that is probably the most amazing thing that the Woolly Thistle has ever done. However, second to that was we turned the business upside down after a couple of weeks of COVID being in the world, at least to our knowledge, back in March of 2020. And I was the only one that could go into the shop. Nobody else could go to work. Knitters were knitting like crazy, so we had more orders than usual. And I could not physically pack everything and do all the other things I used to do, such as the social media and the bookkeeping and all of that kind of stuff. And I think about 2 weeks in, I realized that I couldn't do it all. There was absolutely no way. And so my team, my trusty team, we had a meeting on Zoom, and I threw it out there that I can't do this myself. They were waiting. They didn't, none of us knew what this was like. And I had told them, wait and let me see what I think and what I can do. They were ready. That's when Maggie essentially jumped into marketing, and I couldn't do it anymore. She took that on and she flew with it. We figured out that I could rough pack orders, which meant taking a bunch of orders and pulling everything off the shelves, putting it in a big bucket and taking it to one of our packers' homes, leaving it on their porch for them to then let it sit there for 24 hours and then bring it into their home where they had packing supplies, and they would fine pack. They would break them down into the actual orders. And we did that for a long time, where I would rough pack all the orders and then drive them around to people's houses where they could then pack them, make them pretty for you, and take them to the post office and get them mailed. Everybody really pitched in and was doing lots of different jobs. And that was my introduction really to letting go and having trust and courage in my team that they would do the best job they could, that they had my back, and that we could actually tolerate this crazy new world. And we did, and we grew. More and more people found us. And of course, eventually we learned that we could come back into the shop, and Maggie just kept growing in the marketing department, and we needed help with inventory because we were running out of inventory so much and I couldn't keep ordering it the way I was doing it. And so Josh came on board and started growing that area so that we could keep up with demand. And I hope that the Woolly Thistle means a great deal to you out there if you're a customer, or if you watch the podcast, or if you are a new knitter, or a knitter who's stepping up into sweater knitting and doing things like steeking or color work. We want to be there for you to help you have a really good experience. And so long as we are learning and adapting and being open-minded to those lessons, we will fly, all of us together. It's an amazing thing. And so I am just so grateful that we all can have busy hands, a creative soul, and a quiet mind because of our knitting and because of our community, and because the Woolly Thistle loves woolly wool, and we love bringing it to you. So with that said, I send a fond farewell to 2022. It's been an amazing year. It's been a difficult year. And who knows what waits for us in 2023. Anything goes these days. But we can meet it with courage and tenacity, with an open mind, being experimental and fun-loving, and caring for one another. And that's what I wish for you, for me, for my team, for all our customers. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next year. Well, we hope you enjoyed that immensely. I know I did. Mm-hmm. And so we just want to wish you a very happy and healthy 2023. We hope that you are knitting and enjoying all your knitting. All knitting is good knitting, as we love to say. And Maggie, just thanks for all your help this year. You've been wonderful. I love co-hosting with you. It's great. And yeah, I'll see you in the new year.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So I think all that's left to say, Maggie, is, do you want to do that bit?
If you go out,
take your knitting. Bye.